The massive station hung in the darkness of space like a silver crown. Inside its largest chamber, representatives from 12 alien species sat in a circle. Their faces showed anger, confusion, and something close to disgust. At the center of the room stood two humans, looking very small compared to the giants around them. Captain J1 kept his face calm, though his heart was beating fast. He had been a diplomat for 15 years, but this felt different. This felt dangerous. Beside him, Commander Hannah stood perfectly still. Her eyes moved constantly, watching every alien in the room, reading their body language like a book. Chancellor Vree spoke first. His insect-like body clicked and clattered as he moved. When he talked, his voice came out through a translator box that made him sound cold and mechanical. Humans. You have violated our laws. You have taken what does not belong to you. You have built colonies on worlds that were claimed long before your species even looked at the stars. J1 stepped forward. Chancellor, with respect, our records show those worlds were unclaimed. We surveyed them for 3 years before any colonists arrived. We found no markers, no settlements, no indication that any species had rights to those systems. A rippling sound came from the left side of the chamber. Ambassador Krill of the Depth species moved forward. His body was mostly water held together by some kind of biological field. When he spoke, bubbles rose through his form. Your ignorance is not an excuse. Those systems contain isotopes sacred to my people. You mine them like common dirt. You show no respect for the galaxy's ancient customs. General Croth slammed a clawed hand against his chair. The reptilian commander was massive, easily 3 meters tall, with scales that looked like armor plating. Enough talk. The humans understand only force. We gave them time to prove themselves civilized. They have failed. Hannah whispered something to J1. He glanced at her, then nodded slightly. She had noticed something in the way the aliens were positioned. This was not just a trial. This was theater. They had already made their decision. J1 tried again. We have 47,000 civilians on those colonies. Families. Children. Give us 72 hours to evacuate them, and we can discuss the territorial claims in detail. We can find a solution that respects everyone's interests. Chancellor Vria's head rotated in a way that made human stomachs turn. Request denied. You have 18 hours to withdraw completely. All personnel. All equipment. All structures. If you do not comply, we will remove you by force. The crystalline delegate called Shimmerthorn made a sound like breaking glass. Light reflected through her body in sharp angles. You humans are children playing with matches in a warehouse full of explosives. You do not understand the danger you have created. The Council has maintained peace for 10,000 years. We will not let your reckless expansion destroy what we have built. General Croft stood up. Behind him, a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed a fleet of warships, hundreds of them, all gathered at the edge of human space. This is the Unified Coalition Fleet. 8 species have contributed vessels. 847 warships, representing the finest military power the galaxy has ever assembled. J1 felt his mouth go dry. 200 human ships guarded the colonies. The odds were worse than 4 to 1. Croth continued, his voice full of confidence. Our military analysts have studied your capabilities. Your ships are fast but lightly armed. Your crews are brave but inexperienced. You have fought no major wars. You have no battle-tested strategies. He gestured at another holographic display showing charts and graphs. Our computers predict that human resistance will collapse within 3 to 4 hours of initial engagement. Your military losses will exceed 78%. Civilian casualties will be significant. The room fell silent. Every alien eye turned to the 2 humans standing in the center. Hannah leaned close to J1 again. This time, what she whispered made his eyes widen slightly. She had been watching the tactical displays while the aliens talked. She had seen something they missed. Something important about their assumptions. J1 took a deep breath. When he spoke, his voice was steady and clear. Chancellor Vree. General Croth. Members of the Council. We came here seeking peace. We came in good faith, hoping to find understanding. We have offered compromise. We have offered time. We have offered cooperation. He paused, letting his words settle in the chamber. You have given us your answer. You have shown us your fleet. You have told us your predictions. J1 met Croth's eyes directly. I hope, for all our sakes, that your calculations are correct. Something in his tone made several aliens shift uncomfortably. It was not the voice of a man accepting defeat. It was the voice of someone who knew something they did not. Chancellor Vree dismissed them with a wave. You have 18 hours. Use them wisely. As J1 and Hannah walked out of the chamber, they could hear the aliens already celebrating. Croth was talking about medals and commendations. Krill was discussing how the human colonies would be repurposed. Shimmerthorn was composing what sounded like a victory song. In the corridor outside, Hannah activated her secure communicator. Command, this is Hannah. The talks have failed. They are proceeding as expected. A voice crackled back. Understood. We are ready on our end. J1 looked at his young companion. You really think this will work? Hannah smiled, but there was no humor in it. Captain, they have been watching us for 60 years and learned nothing. We have been watching them for the same amount of time and learned everything. They think we are weak because we negotiate. They are about to learn the difference between weakness and patience. The communicator buzzed again. This time it was Admiral Hyunsu himself. Captain J1, Commander Hannah. Return to the diplomatic vessel immediately. Operation Flashpoint is authorized. The Shadow Fleet is moving into position. As their shuttle departed from the Council station, J1 looked back at the massive structure. Somewhere inside, General Croth was reviewing his battle plans. Chancellor Vree was preparing his victory speech. 847 warships were moving toward human space, confident in their overwhelming advantage. None of them knew that humanity's real fleet was already surrounding them. None of them suspected that human technology was decades ahead of what they had seen. None of them understood that when humans prepare for something, they prepare completely. The countdown had begun. In 18 hours, the galaxy would learn what humanity could do when pushed into a corner. J1 closed his eyes and whispered a prayer for the people on the colonies, for the human crews preparing for battle, and even for the aliens who had no idea what was coming for them. The storm was gathering. And humanity was ready. The emergency signal reached Earth faster than light itself, carried by quantum communication systems the Council did not know humans possessed. In Geneva, deep beneath the old United Nations building, Admiral Hyunsu watched as his command center came alive with activity. Screens filled with data. Officers rushed to their stations. Within 5 minutes of the diplomatic failure, every military commander in human space was connected to the network. Hyunsu was 62 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 40 years in the service, most of it preparing for a war he hoped would never come. He stood before the main holographic display and looked at the faces of his officers. Some were on ships near the colonies. Some were on Mars. Some were in the Kuiper Belt, so far from the sun that Earth was just a bright star. Report, he said simply. General Minji appeared first. She was the head of strategic research, a woman who had spent her entire career studying alien species. Admiral, we have complete intelligence on the Coalition fleet. Every ship class, every weapon type, every tactical formation they have used in the past 1,000 years. We know their strengths. More importantly, we know their weaknesses. She brought up a detailed breakdown of the enemy fleet. The depth species rely on plasma weapons. Powerful but slow to recharge. The crystalline ships have excellent shields but weak hull plating. Krotha's destroyers are heavily armored but lack maneuverability. The fleet composition is impressive in numbers, but they have never fought together before. 8 different command structures. 8 different combat doctrines. We estimate coordination efficiency at 67%. Hyun-soo nodded. And our assets? Commander Hannah's face appeared on the screen. She was still aboard the diplomatic vessel, already leaving Council space. Admiral, I recorded everything. Their tactical displays, their formation plans, their communication protocols. They discussed their attack strategy openly in the Council chamber. I do not think they believe we are intelligent enough to understand military planning. A few officers smiled grimly at that. Captain Dongmin spoke next. He commanded the visible human fleet, the 200 ships the Council knew about. Sir, we have begun evacuation procedures at the colonies. We can get most civilians out in 12 hours, but that still leaves 14,000 people on the surface when the deadline hits. We need more time. We will make time, Hyun-soo said. He turned to another screen. Colonel Taeyang, status of the Shadow Fleet? The colonel was young, only 34, but he had the eyes of someone much older. He commanded the Wraith Squadron, 15 fighters that were the most advanced vessels humanity had ever built. All ships are ready, Admiral. 1,340 warships powered up and standing by. The coalition fleet does not even know we exist. The room fell silent for a moment. Even officers who knew about the Shadow Fleet still found the numbers hard to believe. For 30 years, humanity had been building ships in secret. Hidden shipyards carved into asteroids. Construction facilities buried in the ice moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Every resource from the disputed mining colonies had gone into this project. The Council thought they were watching humanity carefully. They had seen the 200 patrol ships. They had monitored human military budgets. They had calculated human industrial capacity based on what was visible. They had made one critical mistake. They assumed humans would not lie. They assumed humans would not hide their true strength. Engineer Sujin brought up the technical specifications. Admiral, our quantum displacement drives are fully operational. The aliens still use conventional FTL drives. They need hours to cross a solar system. We can microjump across a battlefield in seconds. We can appear, fire, and vanish before their targeting systems even register our presence. Hyun-soo had seen the technology demonstrated, but it still seemed like magic. Human scientists had developed it 15 years ago, working from theoretical physics that most alien species considered impossible. The drives created tiny quantum tunnels in space, allowing ships to move short distances instantaneously. In normal travel, conventional FTL was actually faster. But, in combat, the ability to teleport even a few hundred kilometers made human ships nearly impossible to hit. They think they know us, Hyun-soo said quietly. They have been watching for 60 years. They have seen our diplomats negotiate. They have seen our merchants trade. They have seen our scientists publish research papers. They think we are soft. They think we are weak. They think we are naive. He looked around the room at his officers. They have never seen us fight. They do not know what we are capable of when we have no other choice. President Daeho joined the conference from Seoul. The civilian leader looked older than his 55 years. The weight of this decision showed on his face. Admiral, are we certain there is no diplomatic solution? No way to avoid bloodshed? Mr. President, they have given us 18 hours to abandon our colonies or be destroyed. They have assembled 847 warships to enforce their ultimatum. They have predicted our defeat in less than 4 hours. They have made their intentions clear. Daeho was silent for a long moment. Then, he straightened his shoulders. Very well. Admiral Hyun-soo, you have authorization to defend our people by any means necessary. Show them what humanity can do. But, Admiral, remember who we are. We fight only when we must. and, when we fight, we do so with honor. Understood, Mr. President. The plan came together quickly. Colonel Taeyang proposed the strategy, and it was so bold that several officers initially thought it was a joke. Instead of defending the colonies and fighting a long defensive war, humanity would attack first. The Shadow Fleet would surround the Coalition fleet before the enemy even knew they were there. The demonstration of force would be overwhelming and undeniable. They will outnumber our visible forces, Taeyang explained. But they will not be prepared for our real strength. More importantly, they will not be prepared for our tactics. We will not fight like they expect. We will not line up our ships and trade broadsides like ancient naval battles. We will fight like humans. Fast, unpredictable, and absolutely determined. Engineer Sujin added technical details. We have complete access to their communication protocols. We can jam their command network the moment we want to. We have cyber warfare teams standing by to infiltrate their computer systems. We know the exact specifications of every ship in their fleet. We can target specific systems with surgical precision. Minji brought up casualty projections. If we execute the plan correctly, we can disable the entire Coalition fleet with minimal loss of life. Our goal is not to destroy them. Our goal is to prove that we cannot be intimidated. We want them to return to the Council and report what happened. We want the galaxy to know that humanity is not weak. The countdown clock on the main display showed 16 hours and 43 minutes remaining. Across the solar system, the Shadow Fleet began moving into position. The quantum displacement drives allowed them to jump in complete silence, leaving no trace that conventional sensors could detect. Admiral Hyunsu sent one final message to all human forces. This is not the war we wanted. But it is the war they have chosen to bring to us. We will fight not out of anger or hatred, but out of necessity. We will show them our strength, but we will not forget our humanity. Every person in the Coalition fleet is someone's son or daughter, someone's friend or family. We will disable their ships, not slaughter their crews. We will win this conflict, but we will do so in a way that leaves room for peace afterward. He paused, then added. Humanity has been underestimated before. We have been dismissed, overlooked, and ignored. Today, we remind the galaxy why that is a mistake. Today, we show them what we really are. In the Kuiper Belt, the last of the Shadow Fleet ships completed their jump sequences. They were spread across 40 light-years, invisible and waiting. The trap was set. And the Coalition fleet was sailing straight into it. General Croth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment, and felt satisfaction deep in his chest. The massive warship was the pride of his species, built over the course of 20 years, armed with enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Around it, 846 other vessels moved in perfect formation. The Coalition fleet was the largest military force assembled in 3 centuries. The bridge crew worked with efficient precision. Tactical officers monitored their displays. Weapons specialists ran final checks on the plasma cannons and missile batteries. Navigation kept the fleet on course toward human space. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. Chancellor Vri observed from a raised platform near the center of the bridge. The insectoid leader had insisted on being present for what he called the correction of an upstart species. His mandibles clicked together in a pattern that his species used to show pleasure. General, how long until we reach the human colonies? Croth checked the display. 7 hours, Chancellor. Well within the deadline we gave them. Our scouts report that the humans are attempting to evacuate their civilians, but they will not complete the process in time. Their fleet remains in defensive positions around the 3 colony worlds. Predictable, Vri said. They value individual lives over strategic thinking. It is a weakness common to young species. Around the bridge, officers from the 8 coalition species worked at their stations. The depth species handled the plasma weapon systems, their water-based bodies perfect for managing the extreme heat those weapons generated. The crystalline Shimmerthorn delegates monitored the shield arrays, their natural understanding of energy fields making them ideal for defensive systems. Krotha's own people controlled the heavy weapons and tactical planning. It should have been chaotic, 8 different species with 8 different ways of doing things. But the coalition had spent 3 months training together. They had run hundreds of simulations. They knew their roles. Intelligence Officer Nexus approached the general. The small gray being held a data tablet in his 3-fingered hands. "Sir, final analysis of the human defensive positions. They have arranged their 200 ships in a standard sphere formation around the colonies. Conventional defensive doctrine. No surprises." Kroth examined the tactical display. The human ships were spread thin, trying to protect too much space with too few vessels. They are making this too easy. What is the status of their evacuation? Civilian transports are fleeing deeper into human space, Nexus reported. We are detecting approximately 40 transport ships carrying evacuees. The humans appear to be prioritizing children and the elderly, another sign of their emotional decision-making. Ambassador Krill floated closer, his watery form rippling with what might have been concern. "General, I find it strange that the human diplomats showed no fear. Captain J1 seemed almost calm when we delivered our ultimatum. Should we consider the possibility of deception?" Kroth laughed, a deep rumbling sound. "Ambassador, humans are merchants and scientists. They negotiate and they study. They build colonies and they mine asteroids. They do not deceive, because deception requires sophistication they do not possess. What you saw was not calm. It was shock. They simply did not know how to respond to overwhelming force." The tactical display updated. Coalition ships were moving into their attack formation. The depths cruisers would strike first, their plasma bombardment designed to weaken the human defensive shields. Then, the crystalline vessels would follow with their shard cannons, shredding hull plating. Finally, Krotha's heavy destroyers would deliver the killing blows. It was a formation his species had used for 1,000 years. It had won wars against 6 different civilizations. It had never failed. "Target priority," asked the weapons officer. "Disable their command ships first," Kroth ordered. "Once their leadership is confused, the rest will fall quickly. Remember, our goal is submission, not extermination. We want the humans to surrender, to accept their place in the galactic order." Chancellor Vri made that clicking sound again. "Though if they do not surrender quickly, we are prepared to apply additional pressure. The loss of 1 or 2 colonies might teach them the price of defiance." The countdown display showed 6 hours and 20 minutes until weapons range. Officers began running final system checks. The mood on the bridge was confident, almost celebratory. Some of the younger crew members were already talking about commendations and promotions. Nexus brought up statistical projections on the main screen. "Based on observed human capabilities, we calculate a 94.7% probability that they will attempt a fighting retreat. They will trade space for time, falling back toward their home system while trying to evacuate as many civilians as possible. This will extend the engagement to approximately 3 to 4 hours before complete collapse." "And the remaining 5.3%? Vri asked. "Immediate surrender," Nexus said. "Though that would require the humans to act with perfect rationality, which our psychological profiles suggest is unlikely. Humans tend to fight even when the situation is hopeless. Pride, honor, and emotional attachment to territory override logical decision-making." Kroth approved of this analysis. It matched everything he had learned about humans during the past months of observation. They were brave but foolish. Determined but inexperienced. They would fight because they did not know better, and they would lose because they were outmatched. One detail bothered him slightly. The human diplomatic vessel, the small ship carrying Captain J1 and Commander Hannah, had not fled back to Earth. It remained at the border of Coalition space, broadcasting a repeating message requesting renewed negotiations. "Should we respond to their diplomatic overtures?" an officer asked. "Ignore them," Kroth decided. "Let them watch as their colonies fall. Perhaps the sight will teach them humility. The bridge fell into a comfortable rhythm. Hours passed. The fleet moved steadily forward. Every system showed green. Every simulation confirmed victory. The coalition was a perfectly oiled machine, 8 species working as one, overwhelming force applied with precision. Chancellor Vri recorded a message for the Galactic Council. We are hours away from engaging the human forces. This will serve as a lesson to all emerging species about the importance of respecting established galactic order. The humans came to the stars with enthusiasm but without wisdom. Today they learn that enthusiasm is not enough. Today they learn their place. In the tactical center, Nexus made a small notation on his tablet. The long-range sensors were showing minor anomalies. Brief gravitational fluctuations at the edge of detection range. The computer systems dismissed them as cosmic background radiation, normal spacetime ripples that happen naturally. Nexus almost flagged it for review, but the anomalies were so small, so insignificant. The computer had already classified them as harmless. There was no reason to bother the general with sensor ghosts. He deleted the notation and returned to monitoring the human fleet, which was exactly where it was supposed to be, doing exactly what it was expected to do. 4 hours until weapons range. 3 hours until projected human collapse. The coalition fleet sailed forward with absolute confidence. None of them knew that those gravitational ripples were not natural. None of them knew that quantum displacement drives created exactly that kind of signature. None of them knew that 1,340 human warships had already jumped into position around them. The hunters had no idea they were surrounded. The predators did not realize they had become prey. And, every second that passed, the trap grew tighter. General Croth looked at the tactical display and smiled. The humans were in position, waiting to be destroyed. Everything was perfect. Everything was going according to plan. His plan. Not humanity's. The coalition fleet entered weapons range at exactly 1400 hours Earth Standard Time. General Croth raised his hand to give the order to fire. Before the words could leave his mouth, every screen on the Eternal Judgment's bridge went dark. What is happening? Croth demanded. The communications officer, a young member of the Depths species named Fren, worked frantically at his console. Sir, we have lost all communications. The quantum network is completely dead. We cannot contact any other ships in the fleet. We cannot reach Council space. We are completely cut off. Croth felt the first touch of unease. Switch to backup systems. Already tried, sir. Everything is down. Not damaged. Just not responding. Then, the speakers activated with a voice that made everyone on the bridge freeze. It was Commander Hannah, speaking in perfect galactic common. Her tone was calm and professional, the way someone might sound when reading a grocery list. Coalition forces, you are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning. Croth laughed. It was impossible. A bluff. 200 human ships could not surround 800 coalition vessels. The numbers did not work. She is trying to make us panic. Ignore the transmission and prepare to fire. Nexus made a sound like choking. The intelligence officer was staring at his sensor display with all 3 of his eyes wide open. General. You need to see this. The main tactical display came back online. What it showed made several bridge officers gasp. The coalition fleet was indeed surrounded. But not by 200 ships. The display showed contacts on every side. Above them. Below them. In front and behind. The computer was still counting, but the number was already over 1,000. 1,340, to be exact. Impossible, Chancellor Vri whispered. Where did they come from? Weapons Officer VYNN tried to get a targeting lock on the nearest human vessel. His systems could not hold the lock. The human ships were there, solid and real on sensors, but every time the targeting computer tried to track one, it seemed to slip away. "Sir, I cannot establish a firing solution. The targets are moving in ways that should not be possible. They are here, then, not here, then, somewhere else. It is like trying to shoot shadows." Admiral Hyunsu's face appeared on every screen in the Coalition fleet simultaneously. His image was perfectly clear, broadcast on frequencies that should have been secure. His expression was not angry or triumphant. He looked tired and sad. "General Croft, Chancellor Vree, commanders of the Coalition fleet. You came here to teach us a lesson. You came with overwhelming force and absolute confidence. You predicted our defeat in hours. You were wrong about everything except one thing. This will indeed be a lesson. Just not the one you plan to teach." Croft found his voice. "You are bluffing. You cannot have more ships than we do. Where would you build them? Where would you hide them?" "In places you never thought to look," Hyunsu replied. "Because you assumed we were simple. You assumed we were honest to the point of foolishness. You assumed we would show you everything we had. You assumed wrong." Chancellor Vree pushed forward. "Open fire. All ships, engage the enemy." Croft tried. He gave the order. The weapons systems did not respond. VYNN was hitting controls frantically. "Sir, I have no access. The targeting computers are locked. It is like something is inside our systems, blocking our commands." "Human cyber warfare," Nexus said quietly. "They have been inside our networks since the council meeting. They have been watching everything we do. Learning our systems. Preparing for this moment." One human ship moved. It was a destroyer, not particularly large, called Soul's Hammer according to the identification beacon it was openly broadcasting. It micro-jumped directly into the center of a formation of 6 Coalition cruisers. The human ship fired 6 times in 3 seconds. 6 precise shots at point-blank range. Then, it vanished, reappearing several kilometers away before any Coalition vessel could even think about returning fire. 5 of the 6 cruisers immediately listed to the side, their engines punctured with surgical precision. Power readings dropped. Propulsion systems failed. They were crippled but intact, crews unharmed, life support functioning perfectly. The 6th cruiser was completely untouched. It sat there, undamaged, a message clearer than any words. "We chose not to shoot you." Panic spread through the Coalition fleet like wildfire. Ships tried to break formation. Some attempted to flee but found human vessels appearing directly in their escape paths. Others tried to fight, but their weapons could not track targets that teleported. The careful coordination that had taken months to build fell apart in seconds. A Depths flagship attempted to ram the nearest human vessel in desperation. The human ship casually jumped 200 meters to the left. The flagship drifted past, unable to change course fast enough, looking foolish and impotent. Then, Colonel Taeyeon's Wraith Squadron arrived. 15 small fighters that moved like ghosts through the battlefield. They appeared just long enough to fire a single shot at a single ship, then vanished before anyone could react. The shots were not random. Each one disabled one specific system. A shield generator here. A communications array there. A weapons battery. A sensor cluster. The fighters moved with perfect coordination, appearing and disappearing across the entire Coalition fleet. In 60 seconds, they had disabled critical systems on 40 capital ships without destroying a single vessel or killing a single crew member. It was not a battle. It was a demonstration. A show of capability so overwhelming that resistance became meaningless. General Croft tried to rally his forces. He opened a channel to all ships, hoping to coordinate a response. Before he could speak, the Eternal Judgment shuddered. Something had hit them. The main reactor went offline. Emergency lighting flickered on. The bridge was suddenly dark except for red emergency lights. In the darkness, Croft finally understood. Humanity had not been lucky. Humanity had been patient. For 60 years, they had watched and learned. They had smiled and negotiated while building a fleet in secret. They had showed the Council exactly what the Council expected to see while hiding their true capabilities. Humans had not been weak. They had been preparing. Chancellor Vria's voice came through the darkness. I surrender. I officially surrender. All coalition forces stand down immediately. But, Captain J1's voice replied, and there was steel in it now. Your surrender is noted, Chancellor. But, the terms have changed. You will send representatives to negotiate a lasting peace. You will recognize human sovereignty over our colonies. You will share your intelligence about external threats to this galaxy. You will do all of this because in 9 minutes, you learned what we can do when necessary. J1 paused, and, when he spoke again, his voice was quieter but somehow more frightening. You predicted this war would last hours. It lasted 9 minutes. You predicted 78% human casualties. We have 0 casualties. Not one damaged ship. Not one injured crew member. Now imagine what we could do in 9 hours. 9 days. 9 years. Imagine what we could do if we actually wanted to destroy you instead of just teaching you a lesson. The silence that followed was absolute. Across the coalition fleet, 847 ships sat disabled and helpless. Some had damaged engines. Some had offline weapons. Some had dead sensors. Not one had suffered catastrophic damage. Not one crew member had died. The precision was terrifying. The restraint was somehow worse. Humanity had the power to annihilate the entire coalition fleet. They had chosen mercy instead. That choice was more frightening than any threat. Engineer Sujin's voice came through the speakers. Coalition vessels, human boarding parties are approaching. You will comply with their instructions. Your crews will be treated with respect. Your wounded will receive medical attention. Your ships will be secured but not destroyed. This is what happens when you attack humanity. We win. But, we do not forget who we are while winning. General Croth sat in his command chair as human Marines came through the airlocks. They were efficient and professional. They secured the bridge without firing a shot. A young human sergeant approached Croth and saluted with respect. Sir, this vessel is now under human control. You and your crew will be confined to quarters but treated well. Is there anything you need? Croth looked at the young human. I need to understand. How did we miss this? How did we not see what you were? The sergeant smiled slightly. You saw exactly what we wanted you to see, sir. We are good at that. It is what we do when bigger predators are around. We look harmless until we are ready to show our teeth. The war that was supposed to last hours had ended in 10 minutes. But, it was not really a war. It was a lesson delivered with overwhelming force and perfect restraint. And, the galaxy would never make the same mistake again. 3 weeks after what the galaxy now called the 10-minute war, the Galactic Council met again. The chamber looked the same as always, with its circle of seats and floating holographic displays. But, everything else had changed completely. The reserved for petitioners, where humans had stood as supplicants asking for mercy, now held a full delegation from Earth. Admiral Hyunsu sat at the table as an equal. Captain J1 was beside him as humanity's official ambassador. Commander Hannah attended as military liaison. They were no longer visitors begging for time. They were members of the council with full rights and voting power. Chancellor Vries stood to open the session. His mandibles moved slowly, like he was tired or defeated. The Galactic Council hereby recognizes the sovereignty of humanity over all claimed territories, including the 3 disputed colony worlds. We welcome Earth as the 13th member species with full voting rights, territorial guarantees, and all privileges afforded to council members. The words seemed to hurt him to speak. Around the chamber, other alien delegates watched with various expressions. Some looked angry. Some looked thoughtful. A few looked almost relieved. J1 stood to respond. The human delegation accepts this recognition. We come not as conquerors but as partners. What happened 3 weeks ago was unfortunate but necessary. We hope that it marks not the end of our relationship with the Council, but the beginning of a more honest one. Dr. Minji stepped forward to present evidence that had been prepared during the weeks of negotiations. She displayed survey data, territorial charts, and exploration records. The 3 colony worlds in question were indeed unclaimed when humanity settled them. Our records show 5 years of surveys and another 3 years of waiting periods to allow any challenges. No challenges came until after our colonies were established and productive. She pulled up another set of data. Furthermore, the rare isotopes we were mining can be synthesized artificially using techniques the Council was not aware of. We offer to share this synthesis process freely with all member species. The scarcity that sparked this conflict need not exist anymore. Ambassador Krill of the Depths species moved forward in his containment field. His watery body rippled with what looked like embarrassment. If this is true, then we owe humanity an apology. My species declared those isotopes sacred because we believed they were irreplaceable. If they can be created, then our entire objection was based on a misunderstanding. General Croth attended the session not as a military commander but as a witness. He had been relieved of his command after the defeat, though not punished. The Council had decided that learning from the failure was more important than assigning blame. When called upon to speak, he stood with dignity. I have spent my life studying warfare. I thought I understood military strength. The humans taught me that I understood nothing. He looked directly at Admiral Hyun-soo. We thought you were weak because you negotiated instead of threatening. We mistook patience for fear and preparation for passivity. My species has a saying, the silent hunter eats well. We should have remembered that before we became the prey. Hyun-soo acknowledged him with a small nod. General, your fleet fought with honor within the constraints we imposed. Your crews showed discipline and courage. That you lost does not diminish those qualities. We hope that in the future, our species can work together rather than against each other. Engineer Sujin presented the next part of humanity's proposal. She activated holographic displays showing various technologies. Humanity is willing to share selected technologies with the Council in exchange for full access to the collective scientific databases. We offer quantum displacement drive technology for emergency response vessels only, not military applications. We offer medical advances that could extend lifespans for several member species. We offer agricultural techniques that could end food scarcity on worlds with limited arable land. The crystalline delegate Shimmerthorn, who had called humans reckless children just weeks before, made that breaking glass sound that indicated surprise. You would share such advances freely? After we threatened you with destruction? We would share them in exchange for knowledge, not freely, Sujin clarified. But, yes. Humanity believes that the galaxy is stronger when all species can benefit from scientific progress. Hoarding knowledge helps no one. The negotiations continued for hours. Territorial boundaries were confirmed. Trade agreements were established. Scientific cooperation protocols were written. Throughout it all, the human delegation remained professional and reasonable, never gloating about their victory, never demanding excessive concessions. Colonel Taeyang met privately with former coalition commanders during breaks in the sessions. The Wraith Squadron's performance had made him famous across the galaxy. Military academies were already teaching the 10-minute war as a case study in tactical innovation. A young officer from the crystalline species approached him nervously. Colonel, I have studied your tactics. The micro-jump maneuvers, the surgical targeting, the perfect coordination. How does one learn such skills? Taeyang smiled. The same way anyone learns anything. Practice. Lots and lots of practice. We spent 15 years training with the quantum drives before we ever used them in combat. We ran 10,000 simulations. We prepared for every possibility. But the creativity, the unconventional thinking. That is what humans do best, Taeyang said. We do not have the strongest ships or the most powerful weapons. But we think differently. We see possibilities where others see limitations. We find ways to win that others never consider. Back in the main chamber, President Daeho addressed the council via holographic link from Earth. The human government wants the council to understand our position. We did not seek this conflict. We tried every diplomatic option. When forced to fight, we fought with overwhelming force to end the war quickly. But we fought with restraint because we never forgot that those ships contain living beings with families and futures. He paused to let his words settle. The Shadow Fleet will be reduced to normal peacetime levels over the next 5 years. The hidden shipyards in the Kuiper Belt will be converted to civilian manufacturing. We will help supply Council worlds with industrial capacity. But we will never again be vulnerable. That is not a threat. It is a promise to our own people. Chancellor Vri responded carefully. The Council understands. We misjudged humanity badly. We saw your diplomatic efforts as weakness rather than wisdom. We will not make that mistake again. In private sessions over the following days, Commander Hannah met with a security committee composed of representatives from all Council species. She shared some of the intelligence that had made human victory possible, though not all of it. For 60 years, we watched you. Every diplomatic meeting, every trade negotiation, every cultural exchange was also an intelligence-gathering operation. We catalogued your languages, your technologies, your military doctrines. We learned everything we could because we knew that first contact with alien species could go either way. An officer from Krotha's species asked the obvious question. If you were preparing for war all along, why negotiate at all? Why not simply take what you wanted? Hannah looked at him steadily. Because we hoped we would never need the preparations. Because we preferred peace even while planning for war. Because that is what intelligent beings do. We prepare for the worst while working toward the best. The final treaty was signed on the 32nd day after the 10-minute war. It included provisions that would reshape galactic politics for generations. Territorial disputes would now require mandatory arbitration before military action. Technology sharing initiatives would be established. A joint defense force would be created to deal with external threats, with humanity contributing displacement drive technology for rapid response. As the signing ceremony concluded, Chancellor Vri approached J1 away from the cameras and recording devices. Captain, I must know. How long were you actually prepared for this confrontation? J1 considered his answer carefully. From the moment our telescopes detected your scout ship entering the solar system 62 years ago. We watched you watching us. We learned from every interaction. We built our strength in secret because we learned from Earth's history that being unprepared is a fatal mistake. And if we had not forced the issue? If we had negotiated fairly? Then, the Shadow Fleet would still be sitting in the Kuiper Belt, unknown and unused. We would have continued trading and learning and growing. The weapons would have stayed in storage where weapons belong. We are not warlike, Chancellor. But we are not foolish either. 6 months after the war, the first joint human-alien cruise ships launched from facilities orbiting Mars. The vessels were a collaborative effort, combining human displacement drives with Council shield technology and propulsion systems. They would explore regions of space neither species could safely reach alone. On New Sol Station, orbiting one of the formerly disputed colonies, a human engineer and a depth scientist worked together on a terraforming project. A crystalline artist collaborated with a human musician on a fusion symphony that would debut on 12 worlds. Schools opened where children of different species learned together, playing games that mixed human and alien rules, creating something entirely new. Admiral Hyunsu retired quietly on his 65th birthday. His final log entry was brief. We showed the galaxy that we could fight. Now we must show them we can build. The war lasted 10 minutes. The peace must last forever. That is the real test of humanity's strength. The Shadow Fleet remained in reserve, its existence now an open secret across the galaxy. But it rarely needed to deploy. The lesson of the 10-minute war echoed through space: underestimate humanity at your peril, but work with humanity and prosper. Earth's flag flew in the council chambers, a blue marble reminding everyone that sometimes the newest voice is the wisest one. And, in every human heart, a quiet pride. They had been tested by overwhelming force. They had been underestimated by ancient civilizations. They had proven themselves without losing who they were. The galaxy had predicted humanity's defeat in hours. Humans had ended the war in minutes. But the real victory was not in the battle. It was in the peace that followed, built on mutual respect earned through strength tempered by mercy. The 10-minute war became history. The 1,000-year peace it began was just starting.